Hey, it's been a couple weeks. I apologize. I've been going through some stuff and trying to figure some stuff out, but I have some time now. So, I've been trying to figure out what I want to talk about, whether it's singing or being motivational or my testimony. And for the last few months, I have been telling you guys that I'm going to tell my testimony. I am someone who does not talk about herself. But my dad says that my testimony can help people and inspire people. And I've always been afraid to do it. And so today, it's not going to be singing. It's not going to be motivational unless this motivates you. This is going to be about my testimony. So here we go. I was born in Russia, Tver, Russia. Tver is not that far away from Moscow. My birth mom, Zanfira, gave birth to me on April 9th. She spent 2 days with me after being born and left. I have no information on her. I know nothing about her. Only that she spent 2 days with me and left. So when I was 16 months, two parents from the United States adopted me when I was 16 months and brought me to America. But my life didn't really start when I came to America. My life started when I was 7 years old. When I was 7, I learned about God, and I learned about some other things. I'm going to get to that in just a minute. My dad had a dad, and I would call him Papa. He was an important man in my life. He meant a lot to me in my life, and so we knew that he was dying, and my dad took me to his house, and we spent the last time with him. And during that last time, he had a deck, and on his deck he had a little swing that turned into a bed, and we made it, and we laid down on it. And for the first time in my life, I saw stars for the first time. And, you know, me being 7, I didn't know what they were. So I asked him about it, and he said, these are stars. They're galaxies upon galaxies of stars. And there's this creator named God, and he made every single star. He knows every single name, just like he knows all of us, and he knows every single person. And then he also started telling me about his son Jesus, and how Jesus died on the cross for us as sinners, and how we can be saved through Jesus Christ, and how he saved us with dying and then raising again in 3 days. And so about a month after he died, I looked outside. I used to live in the city, and so, you know, the city, you don't get to see very many city lights or anything. And so I looked over one day and I saw the stars, and I remembered what my papa had told me. And so I went over to my adopted parents and I told them that I wanted to get saved. And so I said my prayer, but at that time I wasn't really saved. I was 7, I didn't really understand anything. While also being 7, I got to learn what abuse was. I got to learn what being forced was. I got to learn what sex was. My two people in my family would abuse me sexually, whether it was rape or molestation or just being sexual. And on my 13th birthday, my neighbor threw a party for me, and afterwards I stayed and helped him clean up because, I mean, he was right next door. And my 13th gift from him was sex and abuse. And in between those times, it was rapid. It was almost every day, multiple times a day, just whenever. One of my family members, you know, when he visited, that would happen, and another family member lived across the street, and it happened whenever he wanted it to happen. And so from 7 until 14, I was abused by my own family. And during that time, I had a lot of self-esteem issues. I thought I was a mistake, that I was trash. Why would my own mother want to keep me? You know, maybe I deserve all of this abuse. Maybe I deserve everything that's going on. Maybe I deserve everything, was my thought. And then when I was 14, you know, the abuse finally it didn't stop, but it settled down. I never asked for help. I was always afraid. Who was going to believe a child of anything? And so I tried killing myself 6 times. And when the attempts didn't work, when the ending my life didn't work, I got mad and I told God that he was nothing, that I didn't care about him, to leave me alone, to never, you know, talk to me ever again, that I hated him, and that I was leaving him and never coming back. And so because I couldn't, you know, die, I would hurt myself. And therefore I have scars from that, and they're scars that will never go away. So then I went to high school, and I got abused there as well. I got picked on. Anytime that someone was upset and they wanted to get to someone, it would be me. I was always made fun of for living with a white family because I am obviously not white. I would get made fun of for that, and I would be called names, and I would get hit, and I would do whatever. I was miserable. And so I kept, you know, hurting myself repeatedly because I was alone. I never had anyone, and when I tried to get someone, they didn't last. They never stayed. And so when I was 15, I found out that I was moving to Tennessee, and I was mad. I was just starting to make friends, but they weren't the kind of friends that I should have been hanging out with. These are people who did drugs and did pills and had sex on the weekends, and I wasn't in a good crowd. But I never did anything other than just hurting myself. And then I moved to Tennessee, and I was like, God, you know, is this a new place that you're gonna have me get abused at? Is this a new place that you know, you want to hurt me? A month into moving to Tennessee, one guy asked for some sexual favors, and I said no. And then I was held captive for a day. This guy was insane, and he didn't let my brother and I go for a whole day. And so after that, I kept rejecting God, and I kept telling him to leave me alone, that I hated him so much. And some more time passed, and when I was 18, I turned 18 in April. My adopted parents sat me down and told me about 2 biological sisters, and that they lived 9 hours from me, and that they wanted to see me that day on my birthday. That was my big birthday present, was my sisters. So I got to meet them. I also met them in person in June, and it was very emotional, but it was good. And now I have 2 biological sisters in my life. There's some videos on my channel that you've probably seen. Those are my sisters and I. And so, but 3 weeks before seeing my sisters in June, I had 2 girls from a social media site ask me for help, and I failed, and they both committed suicide, and I was the last ones that they talked to. And then my aunt passed away a week before seeing my sisters, and I went with all of this to go see my sisters, and I came back, and the day I came back, I went to camp. And at camp, I wasn't myself at all. I didn't care. And so November, I recommitted my life to Christ. I told him that I was tired of being who I was, and who I am. Because while being here, I would get high, I would drink, I would do so many things that did not glorify God, that did not take care of myself, that didn't do anything that would have been necessary. And so after recommitting my life to Christ, it's gotten better a little bit, but it's still been really hard. And I am now just finding people who care about me and love me for who I am, and who don't care about my past, but embraces that, and it encourages them. And so what I want to say to you, to everybody who has been sexually abused, to everybody who has been drinking or smoking or getting high with friends, people who almost went to jail or have been to jail, or just someone who's simply just going through a hard time and doesn't see the light, doesn't see anything, from someone who's been through stuff, from someone who's been persecuted for her faith, for someone who's been treated unfairly just within 18 years. I want to tell you this. Bad things don't happen because of your faith. Bad things don't happen because you know who God is. Bad things don't happen because God sits back in his chair and he laughs because he enjoys you being hurt. That's not who God is. God is someone who cares very deeply about you and wants the best for you. God is someone who sent his son, Jesus Christ, to die for you, as I've said in many videos. God doesn't want to kill you. He wants you to have a life full of gifts and treasures and love and everything that you deserve. But it's going to take work. It's going to take effort. But if you're willing to, and you're willing to try, and you're willing to work hard, you will get there. But you can't give up. You can't throw in the towel when things get hard. You can't do that stuff. I was alone my entire life. Yeah, there were people who were there, but they weren't really there. They didn't really understand what I was going through, even though I was trying to explain. But I was too scared. And just a few weeks ago, I received a Christ dad. And today I received a brother. God has a plan for you in your life, even when things are hard, even when things are difficult. He loves you no matter what, and he understands your pain because he created you, so therefore he knows what you go through, and he understands. And if my testimony, if my story that is still being written, that will change in even 2 days, it will change, be added onto, doesn't help you, then I didn't do a good enough job telling it. But God loves you, and he's never going to leave you. Yeah, hard times, trials will happen, but in Jeremiah 29:11, God says, "For I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. Plans for hope and a future. Plans to prosper and build up. Plans for good and not evil." I had to learn that the hard way. And I'm still learning that. There are still times where I'm insecure, where I think about what people have called me and said to me, and I think about my past, but I can't let that determine who I am, because your past does not determine who you are. What you're doing today and who you are today determines who you are now. Your faith determines who you are now. My faith determines who I am right now. So to all of you who is suffering, which is everybody, you are not alone. You will never be alone, because I care, and there are people out there who do. It took me 18 years for my prayers to be answered. But they're being answered. 18 years. And yeah, I had to go through a lot in 18 years.